Alright, so these are the 4 segments we'll talk about. Condos will be predominantly resale, new launches, landed, as well as HDB. And for the context of today, we are going to talk from a buyer's perspective. That means, bear in mind, when we talk about buyer's perspective, I'm adopting a lens that if I'm a buyer that's going to hunt for something in the market today, how will I think? What will I look at? Alright? If sometimes on the webinars we're talking about a seller's perspective, I'll be very seller's focused. That means if I want to exit from a property that I'm holding, I'll be talking about how to market the property, how to be content driven, how to position my property to exit at a higher price, and how to really create the emotional appeal of my property, home staging and stuff like that. So that's from a seller's perspective. But today, we're going to hunt for value. So when it comes to buying and investing, it's very important to hunt for value, because when you enter at the right value and entry quantum, you already win half the battle. So most importantly, when you win half the battle, when it comes to exiting, it's also easier, right? Now, let's talk about some underlying movement first that's happening in the market. There are a lot of pricing disparity that's happening in the market right now. What do I mean by that? Basically, when you look at resale and new launches, I think we're in a crosshair season. So what is a crosshair season? Is that in the last 2 years, I've been advocating a lot about hunting for very good resale property. So there are certain seasons that I think that resale is severely undervalued. But in this season, starting from this quarter, Q4 2024, until maybe about Q3 2025, before developers gets into a very confident mode and they start pricing it, and of course factoring their land bid price and stuff like that, I would say that this towards maybe another 2 to 3 quarters, we will enjoy a lot of pricing disparity to hunt for new launches at certain price quantum that makes sense. All right, not saying that resale is totally overvalued, but I would say generically a high percentage of resale sellers now are asking for future prices. Now, there are some opportunities now in a sense that if you are hunting for something in the market, you have to look at all 4 segments. New launch 99 years, good quantum, you have to consider, because this season it starts to make sense. All right, resale freehold, some of them starts to make a lot of sense. All right, the rationale is because some of the 99 years resale in terms of PSF level is almost the same as freehold resale. All right, TOP projects also starts to make a lot of sense in terms of quantum level. All right, quantum level, it could be about the same as some of the older 15, 20 years old resale condos in the same district or the same enclave. So you need to consider all 4 circles, which is the 99s resale, maybe 10, 15, 20 years old. The projects is just TOP in the last 5 years. Consider them as well. Look at the gap between some of the freehold resale. I'm also going to talk a little bit about CCR as well as some of the new launches. All right. Now, some of the trends that is happening in the market is that the amount of 3 bidders in OCR asking prices that's asking for close to $1.8 million or even 1.8, 1.9 is increasing very rapidly. Now, this shows a huge disparity between the asking price and the actual transacted price. Maybe in certain projects, the transacted price is only 1.6 million, but a lot of sellers are now asking towards the $1.8 million range. This just shows 2 phenomena. Number one, sellers are forward projecting and they are trying to ask for a higher price because they know that this is a chance that they can exit high when interest rate comes down. Number two, they might also be worried about what they can buy if they just exit at, say, the last done price. So for example, let's come to the whiteboard. Maybe somebody is staying in project A. Example, Pongo, all right? But the last done is 1.6 million by their neighbors, but they don't want to exit at 1.6. Why? Because their worry is that if I exit at 1.6, what can I buy with $1.6 million? Maybe there's nothing much for me to buy. All right, even though I take a higher loan and stuff like that, they might think that if I don't exit at 1.8, it doesn't make sense. All right, so this is what we call forward projecting, and this phenomenon too is that if I exit at the last done price, I can't buy anything. The first phenomenon is because they want to exit strong to take advantage of the lower interest rates. So remember, if you have followed with our webinars over the years, I always talk about the fact that when interest rate comes down, FOMO kicks in. Just have a look at what happens at the show flat at Emerald of Katong, Chuan Park. FOMO is kicking in because interest rates are coming down. All right? Now, When I talk about this chart earlier on, about the 4 different circles that you need to look at, this is a very classic example. This is a new launch, balance units, all right? I'm not even talking about when it was launched. When it was launched, it was at about close to $2 million. The balance unit is about 2.1, 2003 PSF. But if you compare with some of the projects that probably is about close to 10 years old, $2,000 PSF, all right, about $2 million. Quantum disparity, a bit too close in my perspective, all right? There's only about $150,000 gap to get a 10-year-old property and a brand new property, and both are 99 years. Of course, I'm not saying that this project is no good. I'm just saying that you have to note the quantum, because sometimes this is 1.9 million, also about 10 years old. This is brand new, 2.1 plus. You need to note the gap. A project that just TOP, 1009 PSF. This is 2003, but quantum is 1.8 vis-a-vis 2.1, all right? And of course, this is an extremely old project, 20 over years coming to 30 years, asking 1.98. Of course, the size is big, 1003 square feet. PSF looks low, but you need to note the quantum. So I come back to the whiteboard again. What do I mean by note the quantum is that if you see a new launch at 2.15 million, 3 beta, even though the size is 900 plus square feet, but you have to take note that now layouts are becoming more efficient. There's also harmonization effect that the developers cannot sell you the RC ledge and the AC ledge. You're buying, I would say, the main footprint of your floor plan. If you buy an old project, even though it's 1003, you have to see, does it have bay windows? Does it have RC ledges? Does it have AC ledges? Because if you shave off everything, maybe it's still at about 1,000 square feet. All right, so that's the first thing to do. Number 2 is that this guy is 2.15. You are getting full 99 years. You are the first owner. By the time you TOP, you will be 95 years. You buy something that maybe the tenure starts at 2,000. Now it's 2024. By the time you buy, it's already 24 years old. Balance lease. Easily, you're left with about 75 years. 4 years later, you're left with 71 years. And let's say if you buy now at 1.9 million, even though you think that you are saving $200,000, all right, $250,000 for example, the gap is 250. But take note, what is going to happen? Okay, sorry, this 250K gap. But what's going to happen is that if we project 3 years later, when you want to sell, or maybe 4 years later in the year 2029, what's going to happen is that both of you will become, you're the same. You are both in the resale market. This guy wants to exit, this guy wants to exit, but what will your buyers think? When they look at this, this is close to about 30 years old. When they look at this, this is only 5 years old or 4 years old because you bought a new launch. And maybe that gap in the mind of the buyer is not too high because you bought at 1.9, you want to sell at 2.15 because you want to make at least $250,000 to make sense. This guy wants to sell at maybe 2.4 million. But this is 2.15, this is 2.4, this is 30 years old, that's 5 years old. You need to note that, is your gap too close? If your gap is too close, it's going to cause confusion to your future buyers. In my opinion, this is too close. If the gap is only 250,000, it's too close. To me, the new launch and the resale must be at least $400,000 to $500,000 gap. So for example, you look at this 1.9, I want to see that the new launches in my same district is at least 2.4, something like that. All right. So if the gap is too close, I will be cautionary. I'll be afraid that when I want to exit, what will my buyers think? Because always think about what your future buyers will think when you want to exit. Because anything that you buy today is going to be your product you want to sell tomorrow. All right. Now, the amount of 4 bidders in the market, OCR market, that's asking at 2.2 million is also increasing because a lot of properties in the OCR market are asking close to 2.2 now. Remember last year, most of the 4 bidders are asking 1.6 to 1.8. Now, this means that if you can still find anything below 2 million, you just go for it. If you want to buy a resale property, you don't want a new launch, that's fine. You want resale, go for it. Because below 2 million, it makes a lot of sense. Why? A lot of the new launches now are about 2.7, 2.8 onwards. All right? So 2 million, I think, is a sweet spot. Above 2, okay, if you really like it. But if you can go for anything below 2, just take it. All right. Resale condos asking price is a little bit overweighted. Not the fault of the resale sellers, all right? Everybody own a property. If you want to sell, it's in the resale market. It's just because of that two things I talk about. Everybody is finding and asking themselves, what can they buy in future with this money that they exited? And of course, now interest rate is low. It doesn't make sense for me to sell low, all right? So sellers are now seeking a chance to exit high, going for a stronger asset. And importantly is that if you are planning to go for a stronger asset, you should do it anytime you are ready. You shouldn't time the market because the stronger asset will move even faster in a FOMO market. So now we already have went back to a FOMO market. We were off the buyer's market in the last 2 years because interest rate was so high. Now, all the good news are coming in. A lot of FOMO in the stock market, crypto market, everything, right? This market, which is the landed property or the stronger asset or the larger properties, they are going to appreciate much faster. With every $100 PSF increase, quantum is going to increase more. Even though, let's say, for example, your 3-bedder is increasing by $100 PSF, it's only a 120K increase compared to a landed that is about 400K increase, all right? If you want to buy a 4-bedder, now you are in a 3-bedder or 2-bedder, also note that you have to go there quickly if you are switching to a stronger target property. Now, if you want to downsize, my suggestion is that you don't do it now. So if you are in your winter season, you want to sell your condo and go to a HDB, don't do it now. So don't sell it. Just hold it for another 3 to 4 quarters. Let the price go up first. Sell it at the highest peak that you can. Then you exit to a HDB market because your condo is going to appreciate much faster than any HDB you are targeting. Of course, if you are targeting those $1 over $1 million HDB, then but my suggestion is that if you're in the winter season, just go for maybe a 4-room or 5-room. But of course, there's this 15 months thing. But if you're above 55, you can go for a 4-room directly. But if you, the 15 months thing is going to cause a lot of issues as well because if you exit, you wait 15 months, perhaps your condo can even go up further for the next 15 months as well. My suggestion is to wait out for another 3 quarters, see how your condo price moves. I'm very confident your condo price will continue to go up. So if you're going for a smaller quantum target property, don't do it first, all right?
Kind of just to start off, we're going to look at, how's the performance like for 2024 in terms of your resale properties. And you see that in 2023, right, the disparity between your CCR, your RCR, and your OCR is around 53%. Between your OCR, RCR, between RCR and CCR is 15%. This is 2023. And in 2024, the disparity between all your different regions has actually narrowed. So you see that, for OCR to RCR is 32%, for RCR to CCR is 8%, almost about half of what you saw in 2023. So I think what this tells you is that, OCR resale properties have really increased in terms of the pricing. And like to echo what Melvin said earlier as well, prices for OCR has been inching very, very close to CCR. And there are opportunities in your RCR and CCR region, primarily because your PSF for OCR is already very close. And so this graph kind of just takes a look at what are the available listings in the OCR region for 1-bedders. So the reason why we plotted out all these graphs for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-bedders and across the 3 different regions is we want to kind of identify whether there's an opportunity for us to enter a certain district in a certain number of bedroom. So for 1-bedders, OCR usually for OCR generally our recommendation is always to go for bigger properties, so like 3, 4-bedders. So surprisingly, there are actually quite a few number of listings for 1-bedder in the OCR region. As you can see, below 1 million, there's at least 1,005 units available. Of course, there will be duplicates here and there, but of course, it's generally still a good guiding point. And a few key takeaways for this graph is that when the distribution graph is so skewed, you need to kind of take note because that means that if, let's say, for example, you are a buyer and you want to buy into a 1 mil OCR because maybe that's where the budget is set at. You want to buy a 1 million 1-bedder and then you're looking at, okay, this is comfortable within my quantum. But then you realize if you're buying into one of the 1,005 units over here, when you exit 3 to 5 years' time, these will be all the available options that will also be trying to exit, which means that competition will be very intense and you may need to wait quite a bit in terms of having to exit the market. You might need to wait a little while. And for 2-bedders, you see that primarily most of the listings are in the 1 to 1.22 million quantum. So of course, once it goes to a 1.5 to 2 million quantum, this goes very close to your RCR region already. So definitely, there will be people who might switch to RCR instead. But of course, if we can get something in the 1 to 1.25 million, this will be the more ideal because it's still closer to a 1 million quantum for a one bedder. And if you look at three bedders, you realize that majority of listings, like I think Melvin also initially mentioned, a lot of the three bedder listings are within the 1.8 million quantum. So this, in general, this section is where you see most of the listings. And you realize that actually it is quite, how do I go back? Yeah. Actually, it's quite similar to what the asking is for two bedders. So for two bedders, you realize that already there are listings in the 1.5 to 2 million quantum. So very similar to what you see for three bedders in OCR as well. So if let's say you are having this budget of maybe a 1.8 million region, then our recommendation is to, if you can, go for a three bedder, because three bedders predominantly has shown the most improvement in terms of price performance and ease of exit when you want to exit in the future. Okay, so for four bedders, the bulk of the listings will be found in your 1.5 to 3 million quantum, and the main takeaway for four bedders and five bedders in OCR is that we have to be very careful in terms of the quantum, because in terms of quantum, right, OCR is the region where there are a lot of HDB upgraders. They are a little bit more price sensitive. If let's say we go beyond a 3 million for a four bedder, they might move to RCR or they might move to somewhere else instead of staying in the OCR region, or they might go for something that's cheaper. So if we can get something that is in the 1.5 to 2.5 million region, these will be where most of the four bedders will be entered into. And like Melvin mentioned, there are an increasing number of four bedders that are asking within this region itself, like a 2.2 region. Okay, and for five bedders and onwards, so this part you got to be careful, because for five bedders, if let's say for example you're entering in the 3.5 million region, 4 million region onwards, what this is very close to is entry level landed. So for example, strata landed, there are options in the 4 million region, for terrace houses as well, for your general Cat 2 terrace houses, there are options in the low 4 million quantum. So if let's say for buyers, if they want to just buffer a little bit up, they can stretch a little bit up in terms of the budget, they can actually enter a landed instead of going into a 5-bed condo. So primarily a lot of people who enter into 5-bed condo is because they need space. So that will be their options, whether they go for something that is condo 5-bed or they want to go for something that is landed where you have a lot more space as well. Okay, and so this graph, so this table is just the number of resale transactions from the year January to where we are here today, and this gives you an idea as to what are the popular districts in terms of its transactions. So you can see here quite clearly for D19, it is where you see the most transactions. You've got 245 transactions in one bedder, 543 transactions for two bedder, 866 transactions for three bedder. So this is your popular district, and this district 13 is where you see a kind of a lower number of transactions. One bedder is 4, two bedder is 10. What this tells you is that, let's say for example, you are not very district sensitive, so maybe you just want to enter either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedder, you are okay to stay anywhere else. Then you will have a look at this and you'll wonder, okay, I should enter into a district where there is a healthy volume of transactions, because that's when your transactions can move, and that's when your price index can move as well. So definitely go for something where your demand and your supply is where it's in equilibrium and in tandem, rather than go for something where maybe your supply is huge but your demand is not there, and you see that transactions wise it is quite low. And then so this table, we actually plotted this table just to kind of give us an idea the absorption ratio. So absorption ratio, we've talked about it in 2023 before. So absorption ratio is really just to give you an idea. If let's say you are buying into a unit, maybe for example a one bedder in the OCR region, how long does it take for me to exit when I want to exit 3 to 5 years time? And the way we do that is we calculate absorption ratio using the listings in a given month divided by the monthly sales rate. So for example, total current listings for November across the 3 different across all the districts versus divided by the total number of units transacted in District 5, District 13, so on and so forth. And that gives you the absorption ratio. So you can see here very clearly, the ones that are green highlighted are the ones that are better in its absorption ratio. And what this means is that it's calculated in months. So for example, in District 25, if let's say you buy a 3-bedder and you want to exit, it will take you maybe slightly less than a month to exit. For 4-bedder, it will take you slightly less than 4 months and a half to exit. Whereas when you take the other examples, the red boxes in comparison, District 21, it takes you 1,000 months to exit a 1-bedder. So the difference is honestly quite significant, and it gives you an idea as to, like, for example, if you buy a 3-bedder in District 25, you are assured that the demand and supply there is at fair equilibrium. Demand definitely maybe outstrips supply, so that the unit actually moves quite fast. But if you go into District 21, your demand for 1-bedder may not be very high, but there may be a lot of supply, maybe due to TOP condos, due to new launches, and that makes the exit very difficult in the time when you want to exit. Okay, and in general, I think what we observe also that there is a slower absorption rate in OCR in 2024 versus 2023, and this is due to increasing resale prices because, as Melvin mentioned in the previous slides, so resale prices for OCR has been on an upward trend, and that makes a lot of people start pushing to the RCR region because, in a sense, they only need to top up a little bit more to get something that is a little bit more central as well. And yes. So we also looked at, what are the disparity in terms of PSF for the number of bedrooms, and you can clearly see that 1 and 2 bedders have really moved up ahead of the pack. So 3, 4, 5 bedders are in this cluster over here, and 1 and 2 is over here. And it gives you an idea, there's a disparity between 1 and 2 bedder PSF with the rest. And what that means to you is that the PSF for 1 and 2 bedders in the OCR region are very overpriced. And it might make more sense to go into RCR if you really need to go for 1 and 2 bedders, or even if, let's say, you can stretch a little bit more to your 3, 4 bedder, that would be ideal. Okay. So we'll move on to RCR. So RCR, the same thing. We're going to plot the asking prices for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedder. So again, 1 bedders, you will see that a lot of your listings are below 1 million. So again, comparing to OCR, where you saw a bulk of listings also below 1 million, that means that if, let's say, for example, you have a 1 million budget, you want to go into 1 bedder, you may want to consider RCR region instead of your OCR region. And for 2 bedders, so 2 bedders region, it will move a little bit up to 1 to 2 million. So for RCR, you'll realize that in terms of the numbers, in terms of the asking prices, they tend to be a little bit more close for RCR instead of OCR. So you see that for 2 bedders, you can go to 1 to 2 million. For 3 bedders, you can see that majority of the listings for RCR will be in your 1.5 to 2.5 million region. So it's very, very close to what you see for 2 bedders. So if you want to go for 2 bedder RCR, maybe you can consider a 3 bedder RCR. But if you're going to do 3 bedder RCR in this region, for 2 to 2.5 million, there are options for new launch 3 bedders as well. So maybe perhaps you want to explore a 3 bedder new launch instead of going for something that is resale in this region. Of course, if you can get something below 1.5 million for a 3 bedder RCR, I think that's also good. But chances are these will be a boutique development, so probably in terms of volume of transactions, not the most healthy. And yeah, so again, for higher quantum listings for resale, even in the RCR region, anytime you go into something that is 7 mil onwards, 6.57 mil onwards for a 4 bedder, it is becoming very close to OCR landed. You can get some RCR landed as well within this region for entry level quantum. Again, so if you want to go into this part, then you just got to be careful when you want to exit in future as well. And yeah, so for 5 bedder, 2 extremes, you've got listings that are below 4 million, so these will be better. These will be ideal. Listings that are 11 mil and onwards, and you can see there's 106 listings available for sale. So this one, so if you want to enter into this, I think the main question to ask yourself is, who will be your exit audience when you do decide to exit in the future? Because at this quantum, for Singaporeans at least, they have many options. And if, let's say, we think about, who, maybe foreigners or PRs, but if you realize that majority of the homes are owned by Singaporeans. So actually, if you are depending on that small group of PRs and foreigners to buy your property, 106 listings available for 5 bedder, it might take some time for you to actually move your listing.
All right, this chart, we have shown it a couple of times in the last few webinars, as well as our physical seminar as well. Basically, if it's your first time joining us, it's very important to understand what are the key drivers when it comes to condo PSF prices. Now, the key driver